Hello everybody and welcome to the United Stand for your Manchester United trip to Wolves preview, which is basically Wolves versus Manchester United preview, but I got it the wrong way around. But it's a huge game. I'm very excited about this preview because it's such a big game. If you analyse United's fixtures like I do and you look at the league table like I do, you'll see that United at the moment, we're currently in 5th place. We've got 29 points. We do have a game in hand on both Newcastle in 3rd and Spurs in 4th. We're a point behind Spurs, but we're 4 points behind Newcastle. This game against Wolves is absolutely imperative to win because Newcastle, Spurs, Liverpool are all at home when we're away to Wolves. So potentially we could drop points and lose our place. However, we play Bournemouth on Tuesday night at home, which has got to be 3 points. Newcastle play Arsenal. Liverpool are away to Brentford, and I think Spurs are away to Palace. So by beating Wolves, you then get your opportunity against Bournemouth to pounce. So it's massively important that we win this Wolves game for that reason. We've got one of the more difficult games compared to our rivals on New Year's Eve, but then we get Bournemouth at home on Tuesday. So put the hard work in at Molineux against Wolves and then reap the rewards on Tuesday night against Bournemouth. That's what this is about. And look, long term, do I think we can get top 4? Probably not. But that doesn't mean you can't fight for it. And, Eric Ten Hag has made it very, very clear that Man United should win every single game. So what about Wolves? I think we'll talk about United's lineup in a minute. Wolves are really interesting. We spoke about Forest in the preview that they had scored one away goal all season. 1 goal in 7 games. And I said we'll win to 0. And we did win to 0. It's 1 goal in 8 for them now. But from Wolves' point of view, shocking, absolutely terrible. The lowest scorers in the Premier League. They've only scored 10 goals in the Premier League so far. Put that into context, I think even Leicester have scored 25. So they don't score goals. And that's been Wolves' problem, not just this season, any other season. So again, I'm looking at this game and I'm very confident that we'll win because with the way out, Casemiro, I want to talk about him in a minute. Varane played, Martinez hopefully comes back in. We're not easy to score against, and we've always got 1 or 2 goals in us. So I'm confident that we can win this game. Now Wolves did win. There is a little kicker to that, I suppose. Wolves did beat Everton at Goodison Park. I think it was on Boxing Day, and they have got a new manager in Lopetegui, but they still got the same players. They still play with a back 4. I still think you can get at their defence. I still don't think their midfield is that good. Moutinho was a good signing 2 or 3 years ago. I think he's a bit past it now. Neves is a good player who wants to move. They played Costa up front against Everton. And when you look at that Everton game, I think Wolves had 40% possession. Everton had more shots, more passes. They scored the winner in stoppage time. So I'm not massively. I mean that was and they're in the bottom 3. Wolves. Let's be honest, they're in the bottom 3. So look, maybe Lopetegui will be the right man. I know they've got Cunha coming in from Atletico Madrid in the January transfer window, and it's his first game in charge at Molineux. But I think for United, this is bread and butter for Eric Ten Hag. If you think about those first 2 games of the season when we lost to Brighton and Brentford, and then how we reacted to that by going to Southampton and winning, going to Leicester and winning. I think this is and I think we've progressed further than that. But I think we would win this game just by doing what we did in those games. Keep it tight at the back and wait for your moment, whether it's a Bruno moment, a Rashford moment. I think we'll win the game if we go with that approach. We may go a little bit more adventurous than that. We may go and win the game 2 or 3-0 again. But I think we can go there and basically play the way that we have done a few times this season where, we build off the back and we await that moment that will come, especially the way that Rashford's playing at the moment. We've got Martial back. I think Bruno's looking good. I think we'll go and win this maybe 1 or 2-0 because Wolves just don't score goals. And I think even if we had a bad start, and these things will happen, we will go 1-0 down away from home at some point and people might panic, but I still think we'll come back against a team like Wolves because they just don't score enough goals, and I think we've got a lot of goals in us. And also I think we've massively benefited from something that will hurt us later in the season. Remember I said that Newcastle didn't have many players go to the World Cup, and Aston Villa didn't have many players go to the World Cup, and that'll be an advantage for them because they're not playing in Europe as well. Well, Liverpool steamrolled Villa on Boxing Day night. But I think that's because if you did go to the World Cup, that's actually an advantage at the moment because you're very sharp compared to the players that didn't. and that's very easy to figure out because if you're Bruno Fernandes and you've just had 6 weeks with Portugal training every day, playing games, and then you have barely a week off and you're back playing for United, you're in the groove. You come up against someone like Moutinho, who didn't go to the World Cup with Portugal. Don't think he did he? Maybe he did. I don't think he did. But, somebody who didn't go to the World Cup, all right, they've had 6 weeks off, but they're not match sharp. So I think over the next few games, clubs that had a lot of players at the World Cup are at an advantage. I think from February on, it will become a disadvantage because those players who had 6 weeks off will benefit from that. So we're not at that point yet. So I think that works for us well. And I expect us to win. I don't think, even with a new manager, that Wolverhampton Wanderers really have enough to cause Manchester United a problem. And I think there are mini leagues within the Premier League as well. I think that's established itself. I've not really heard anybody talk about it yet, but I think there are mini leagues within this league. There is a top 7 of Manchester City, Arsenal, Liverpool, Chelsea, us, Spurs, Newcastle, and we are the 7 best teams in the league. And you would expect us to go and beat the Bournemouths, Wolves, Evertons, Nottingham Forests. There's a couple of others as well. And then you've got teams like, the West Hams of this world who... West Ham are down there as well, really. I think, the Brightons of this world, certainly, maybe the Crystal Palaces, who on their day, Brentfords, can cause the top 7 a problem. But I think Wolves sit in the bottom third of the league. That there's a top 7, there's a few other teams, and there's the bottom 7 at the moment, and Wolves are in that. So we've got to go and win this game. We've got to beat Bournemouth. We had to take 9 points from these first 3 Premier League games back. I expect us to do it. And the team is playing well at the moment, and it's in a good place. People will say, well, why do we need to buy in January then? Because we won't be in a good place in February and March, because we are already, as I said on the show last night, we played Forest on Tuesday night. We're playing Wolves on Saturday lunchtime. We play Bournemouth on Tuesday night. We play Everton on Friday night. And then we play Charlton on the Tuesday night. And then we play Man City on the Saturday. It's a ridiculous schedule to play 6 games in, 2.5 weeks? So that will start to hurt us with the squad that we've got. No return from Jadon Sancho as of yet, by the way. I think that's important mentioning. We'll look at the team here, and for me, this is the team you go with. Deleu's clearly not back. No press conference from Ten Hag again either. There is an embargoed section which we'll cover at lunchtime tomorrow, but that was filmed after the game against Forest. So, it's 3 days old already. Anything on Sancho, Deleu is 3 days old. But Deleu, we don't really know how extensive that injury is. Sancho, we don't believe he's back at the moment. So I'd go De Gea in goal, keep Wan-Bissaka at right back, Luke Shaw left back. Martinez has to come in with Varane. This is a tough game away from home. Let's go strong. Casemiro, Eriksen, Bruno, and then Martial, Rashford. And I would keep Anthony in. I think at the end of the day, I saw a lot of people giving Anthony a lot of stick against Forest, but ultimately it's not his fault, the price tag. I think of Anthony as a £55 million player. That's what he is. And even at 55 million, he's a Ten Hag signing who played with him at Ajax. I want to see him start the next 5 games. I want to see that happen. I said this about Fred years ago. Remember when we first got Fred and he never really got a run in the team? And it's funny because he's been here for so long and he's sort of... People would probably move him on now, but when we first bought Fred, he didn't really used to get much game time, and it was like, give him a run. And I think with Anthony, yes, Garnacho looks good, but and Sancho's not available. I think with Anthony, just keep him in the team. Keep him in the team and see what he can do. Because what we don't want is to leave a little bit of a gap for people to start pushing in and making the gap bigger about flop and this, that, and the other. I think keep him in the team, because I tell you what, in that team, he had a great chance, didn't he? Bruno fed him in, great one-on-one. If he scores the goal, that shuts everybody up again. Keep him in that team. It's doing well. He'll score goals, create goals, and then this discussion about whether he's good enough or not will start to disappear. He's the only left-sided player we've got in the attack. That makes him absolutely essential to balance and ability, and we need to get the best out of him. So for me, let's stick with this front 3. It's not perfect at the moment. I don't think Martial's playing perfectly well at the moment. Rashford's the standout player, but that's my front 3 at the moment, and it's probably my front 3 even if Sancho's fit, Garnacho's playing well. until we bring somebody in January, which, to be honest with you, will probably just be a bench player, won't it? I think that's the front three to go with. So yeah, I'm not worried about Wolves. I think their back four is vulnerable. They've got a good keeper. I think our midfield is much better than theirs, which is such a... I want to come back to that in a minute. And I think their front three, all right, Podence is a good player. I think they've got the South Korean lad, is it Chang? He looks decent. Neto's still injured. They don't get Kuna until after we play them. Costa, handful, but not really for Varane and Martinez. I just don't see them scoring more than one against us, and I can see us scoring more than one. So I'd be very disappointed if we don't win this game, because one thing we've absolutely got to do is get the points while we can. I don't think it's going to be... If we were playing Wolves in March and we've just played a Thursday night Europa League knockout game, I think this becomes very difficult to win. So you've got to win these games now. We haven't played on Thursday night. We played on Tuesday. So we've got... And Ten Hag will be telling the team this. You've got to get the points now. Grab these points now, because as we saw with Aston Villa, we may as well have just given Villa the 3 points and not played the game. We were exhausted. So we will have those things happening to us in February and March. So let's get these points now. And as I said at the start of the video, let's take the momentum. Because if we beat Wolves, it doesn't really matter what Liverpool have done at home to Leicester. It doesn't really matter what Spurs have done at home or Newcastle have done at home to Leeds. Because Newcastle, we're only a point behind Spurs anyway with the game in hand. But if we can beat Wolves and beat Bournemouth, which I think we will, that gap of 4 points to Newcastle will probably be down to 1. Because I think Arsenal will beat them on Tuesday night. So, interesting, that game kicks off at the same time as us. So when we're doing the watch-along, it'll be worth keeping an eye on that. I want to talk about the midfield. I think that I got something. Let me just check. I want to give them a shout out because they messaged me quite a lot. It's at Lyle MUFC on Twitter. Sent me a message earlier on about how there was a bit of a discussion going on online about how Manchester United. Basically, it was saying that if Rodri didn't play for Man City, they'd still be in the race for the title. If Casemiro didn't play for Manchester United, they'd still be where they are. But if you took Thomas Partey out of Arsenal, they wouldn't be in a title race. That's absolutely fine. I've got no problem with that, whatever the angle is, whoever's coming at that point. But I'm telling you now, Manchester United would not be where they are without Casemiro. I mean, fair play if Arsenal fans want to say that's how good Thomas Partey is. I mean, I sort of disagree, really. I think Xhaka has been bloody good for you as well. But we don't have Xhaka and Partey, we have Casemiro. You take Casemiro out of Man United's side, we are mid-table. Like, this is a work in progress. Ten Hag's doing a very good job, but this is the worst Manchester United Premier League side in history that he's taken over. You take out... a bit of turkey. You take out a bit of turkey. You take out Casemiro, Man United's midfield... We're not in the same position. We're not the same team. I'm sorry. All respect to Fred and McTominay, but you take Casemiro out and replace him with McTominay and Fred. You end up with what you had last season. And the relevance of this to Wolves is, I look at games now, I preview games now, and I go, our midfield's way better than theirs. And I know, all my life I've known this, games are won and lost in the midfield. Last season, I don't think there was a midfield that I thought we were better than. You go and play Romu and Ward-Prowse, I think they're better than McTominay and Fred. You go and play Norwich, I thought they were better than McTominay and Fred. So, don't tell me that if you take Casemiro out of our team, we'll still be competing. Our midfield was a disgrace last year. An absolute joke. And I know people who play in the Premier League, and they were saying, whenever we played you, you're always pumped up for playing United anyway. There's pumped up and then there's belief. And when we were playing you, we believed we were going to beat you because we looked at your midfield and felt that we could beat your midfield. And a lot of teams did that. Now, the great thing about Casemiro is, everyone's talking about Casemiro, it's not just United fans. Wolves at the weekend, they're playing Casemiro, one of the best midfielders in the world. It's not the same as when Sir Alex Ferguson was in charge and people were beaten in the tunnel. But we're starting to get back to that. Now, of course, when we play Man City in a couple of weeks, they're not going to be shit scared of Casemiro. I don't think Arsenal at the Emirates the week after will be shit scared about Casemiro. That will be advantageous for us because it makes us stronger in the midfield. But when it comes to the Nottingham Forests and the Wolves and the Bournemouths and the Fulhams and, you know, most of the Premier League, our midfield now, I look at it and go, well, we're better than them. And that doesn't mean you're going to beat them. But all of last season, and probably for a lot of the last few years, I look at the midfield and go, I don't think it's better than who we're playing. I ain't talking about Man City. A lot of the time I'm talking about Crystal Palace or someone like that. So the enormity of Casemiro in that midfield is massive. I think he's... we're so fortunate to have him. How it came about, we're probably fortunate as well, because let's be honest, Erik ten Hag wanted Frankie de Jong. But football, I would in no way would I ever criticise Erik ten Hag, because football is also about, you don't always get what you want, and it's how you adapt to that. So, you know, he wanted Frankie de Jong and he didn't get him, and he could have been like, well, I don't want anyone. And then we got Casemiro, and 100%, we spent all summer trying to get Frankie de Jong. And I saw a quote from Frankie de Jong the other day saying that he wants to stay at Barcelona for years, and if he doesn't, he'd be disappointed. I mean, that's the sort of player that Man United keep trying to bring. A player that openly would be gutted to come to Manchester United or any other club if he leaves Barcelona. And yet Casemiro and Varane happily came to Manchester United as serial winners from Real Madrid because they wanted a challenge in the Premier League. I think that there is a lesson here for Manchester United. Let's not be begging people that don't really want to come. Let's bring people here who do. And that's not necessarily a player who wants to step up. That's not always going to be Bruno from Sporting Lisbon or Harry Maguire from Leicester. You can sometimes get the best players in the world who are looking for a challenge and appreciate what Manchester United is and come. People like Rafael Varane and Casemiro. So I think Casemiro has been unbelievable. I think we've been fortunate to get him on many levels, and not one part of me wishes we got what Ten Hag wanted, which is de Jong. I wonder if Erik ten Hag still would take de Jong. That we'll never know, and he can't answer that question. But do you think that if you could get an honest answer from Ten Hag and you said, you can still get de Jong, but Casemiro has to go back to Real Madrid, would he do it? Now, it might be that important to the way he plays that he would do it. Personally, I think he'd like to take de Jong and put him next to Casemiro, because I think that would be the dream midfield for him. But I don't think he would have got both of them. If we got de Jong, we wouldn't have got Casemiro. So, but it's exactly the same with Martinez. Timber was the guy he wanted, and Timber's right-footed. So if we'd have got Timber, we would have been in a situation where we would have got right-footed Timber, right-footed Maguire, right-footed Lindelof, and right-footed Varane. How would that have worked? Martinez is better than Timber at the moment, and he's left-footed, and yet Timber was the priority. So there's two examples there of, you know, in one way Ten Hag's been fortunate, but in another way he's gone for plan B, and he's adapted to the not getting what he wanted, and it's worked brilliantly, because sometimes it works like that. You know, we wanted Gakpo, we could get João Felix, he could be a revelation. We'll probably not get either of them, but it could work like that. And it certainly worked with Casemiro and de Jong, and it certainly worked with Martinez and Timber. So, look, the point is that you don't always get plan A, but if you're going for plan B, make sure plan B is the plan B that the manager wants. And I think that's what did happen with Casemiro and Martinez. But I'd argue it with anyone. I look at that United side, and if you take Rashford out of that team at the moment, we're going to struggle. If you take Bruno out of that team at the moment, we're going to struggle. If you take Eriksen out of that team, his role, we will struggle. You take Casemiro out of that team, we're in deep, deep trouble. Definitely. 100%. And I think Varane and Martinez are in that situation as well. I personally think, I look at that United side at the moment, and I think it's almost at a point. 1 minute. It's almost at a point. Okay, I'm going to have to end this video. Got people here. It's almost at a point where it's ready to win a title. But not quite. We need to build a squad. I think De Gea, we need a right back. Centre-backs are good. Shaw's good. Casemiro's good. We need another midfielder. We need a backup for Bruno. We need another attacker. But there we go. Yeah, I think United will win. Smash a like on the video. Subscribe. Get your comments in below. Massive game. Have to win it. I'll speak to you all in a bit.